Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our wonderful partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. I am here with Maddie Lane with a fresh haircut, it would seem. Maddie, how was Father's Day for you?
It was pretty good. Staying busy. It's getting to be summertime here. We have had a baby goat recently. So I've been trying to prepare everything going on for that. It's just been a lot. There's been a lot. Everybody doesn't need the rundown of all the manual labor I have had to do over the past 2 days. But it's been good. It's been going swell. What about you, Kent? How was your Father's Day? I feel like you probably did something more fun than I did.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of
Good.
fun on
We
Father's
can't talk about that here. You got to keep that off the airways.
Well, we got we got Costa Vida. So we got some Mexican food. We got went and played 9 holes as an entire family. So both the boys and my wife, we all went out and played of course Burning Tree in DeSoto, very like family friendly, kid friendly. So we went and did that. It's a great time.
I also played some golf over the weekend, actually.
You did? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, my course was probably more beautiful than yours. At least I had a lot more going on at the old party shack. There's a zip line, there's a party bus, and there's one hole you have to shoot a basket, and then you get to start from wherever you make it from. I had a lot of fun out there on the green too.
I forgot. Was that this weekend?
It was. Maybe like a Friday, but it was sometime recently. Every day kind of blends together right now, honestly. We're on vacation. Kids are home all the time. Everybody's staying up way too late. I'm still waking up early. Everything just kind of blends together right now.
We all know I'm not waking up early.
Well,
we know that to
work.
be true. We know that to be true. Yeah, I'm just not mad. I'm not waking up Maddie Lane early. That's just not happening.
Want to come milk a goat?
No. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay. Well, it's all right. Thanks everyone hanging out with us on a Monday. If you didn't hear the news, we're gonna be having OG Labs on Wednesdays. Craig Stout will be joining us every single Wednesday. On Mondays, me and Maddie will be holding it down. I think the plan is also for Matter Days to continue during the season on Mondays this upcoming season. So we are super hyped about all that. A few things before we get into the show. Just as a reminder, the KCSN Golf Tournament is coming up here in August. You can be a great time, as it always is, out at Creekmore, where it's the Tacos and Bourbon. Tacos for Life is going to be out there. Holiday Distillery is going to be out there. We're going to have a tremendous time hanging out and enjoying ourselves out at the golf course. It's one of our biggest fundraisers of the year. It's trying to help support the KCSN Foundation, which is a very efficient nonprofit wing of KC Sports Network. We try to put every dollar we possibly can back into the communities and the things that we're trying to help support. So make sure you check that out. The link is in the description of the show. It's going to be Monday, August 18th. I believe is the date, and we're going to have an absolutely great time. So go check that out. Link is in the description of the show. You can also go to givebutter.com/KCSN golf and sign your teams up. So we'd appreciate you, your support. It means a lot. There's something that's really passionate about here is, helping initiatives like the Trez Paler Foundation, like helping feed some of the homeless here in Kansas City, getting books for kids in the area, and of course, our raffle at the end of the year at Dick's Sporting Goods. So we're trying to do a lot of stuff here in KC, and it can't be done without your tremendous support. So we appreciate you, and we'd like you to consider jumping in with us for that. We are in the throes of the summer. We're in the middle of it, thick in the middle of it. We've been doing our random rewatches of games, trying to take lessons away from all of these games, and we were lucky enough to draw week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, a game that was a long time ago, the longest ago any of these games could possibly be. And
that's a fact.
That is a fact. Maddie, what were your thoughts on that game? Rewatching it.
It was kind of
Surprised. Hmm.
it was kind of a
Good question.
refreshing watch compared to everything else that we've done up to this point. I guess we did an earlier game. We'll do the Falcons game earlier on a couple weeks back, and like that was a little different because it was so early in the season. And you kind of saw the direction the Chiefs wanted to go. And so this Ravens game, as Kent very clearly pointed out, this game was even farther back than that. It was even earlier, this farthest away it could possibly be this year. And so it was just kind of refreshing. It almost felt like a different version of this Chiefs team that we watched in this game. Like there was very little connective tissue from what they were doing in that game on almost both sides of the ball to where we ended the season. Even, last week when we were talking about that Bills game that they won in the playoffs, it was a good game. It's just, this looked nothing like that. So I guess like my biggest takeaway was just, it was kind of a refreshing watch. It seemed like an offense that actually struck a little bit of fear in a defense. They weren't like crazy explosive. The big plays were a blown coverage. And then Xavier Worthy kind of getting a runway on an end around. So it wasn't that they were like super dynamic. It just, there was the threat of it. You could tell the Ravens were considering that they might have 50 points put on them. Whereas if they got later in the year, that didn't feel like a possibility. So yeah, refreshing, I think, is the best way to go.
I like that phrasing. I wonder, I had several thoughts. You see Rashee Rice eating. He's operating and having a lot of success in the middle of the field, lining up as number 3 to a 3 receiver side. That's the farthest inside for those counting at home. And, added some empty, doing some stuff there. They ran essentially, a smash mirrored concept and then gave him space in the middle of the field. Just kind of, it's a great concept. It's one of my favorite concepts, best concept to throw, gives you answers for everything. You look at him getting out and empty, and it kind of got me thinking. One of the lessons learned is, we talk so much about, how is this group going to beat press? How are they going to be able to handle, not having a true X on the field? And I think like one of the ways you can have, not get away with having, the personnel that this group has is you get into stuff like empty, where you're probably not getting pressed. You're having there's a lot of empty checks. You're checking into 2 or 3 different looks, and you're getting a lot more flexibility. You're getting less decisions having to be made when you're spreading things out and empty. And I wonder if those are just some of the things that this team feels like they have in their bag to try to counteract maybe not having a true X and being able to line Xavier Worthy up at number 3, right? These are some of the things I've just kind of been thinking about. Like, I do feel comfortable and confident this team is going to be able to figure out how to utilize all the weapons on their field, and being able to potentially get away without having a true X by getting out and empty at times and doing some of that stuff. Not to say that skill set isn't valuable, but just to say that, it just was like, that was a refresh and a reminder that this team does know how to utilize their personnel. And they know how to quote unquote exploit the talents of their team. And I do feel like they're going to be able to do that better than about anybody. I think if there was a team that, was going to be able to figure out how to utilize all these different guys and all these guys that do have some crossover in the Venn diagram of receiver skill sets,
Sean McVay.
Them too. He's up there. But that was just one of the things that I felt good. I do feel like we're gonna be able to see all these guys coexist.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything from this game changed my mind on that. I think that's still a long shot if nothing changes. But I do think that you saw in that game when the Ravens clearly still had respect for the Chiefs' ability to push the ball downfield. Yep. They actually respected the Chiefs receivers for some reason. And I think when you saw that did allow Rashee Rice to get a lot of one-on-one matchups with linebackers over the middle of the field that he was torturing. It did allow Noah Gray to find some space. Like they were able to make things happen with the way the Ravens were playing against them because they were treating their wide receiver room like there were these legitimate outside threats. I don't know if that would have held true if these two teams matched up again later in the year. And like, obviously the Chiefs injuries played a part in that. So yeah, we'll just have to see. We'll have to see on that. It was a refreshing watch. I think the Chiefs offensive line held up well enough in this game. It wasn't like a complete disaster there on the left side. And so like, that was again, nice to see play calling that didn't have to be catered entirely around preventing quick pressures. That didn't come until the following week. So yeah, it was fun to go back and honestly see this game. And like, while it wasn't perfect, it's not like it's not like the Chiefs offense put up a billion points and were unstoppable. It's not like the defense completely snuffed out anything that the Ravens tried to do. It just was a little bit different twist on what the rest of the season was, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which was nice to see. I will say defensively, it was also not Nick Bolton's best game. But Leo Chenal, this was his good game. This is starting last year. Chenal was on a tear for like the first half of the season. I think I said it last week. I think he kind of tapered off as the year went. I think you saw some teams later in the year really get him in coverage, having to carry stuff vertically towards the sideline on some corner routes, which wasn't great. You saw teams kind of, when they got the Chiefs in their base defense, you saw them not allow Chenal just to get downhill and destroy plays. They made him actually go play in space. But early to start last year, he was a menace. And this Ravens game was the start of that. And then, like I said, on the flip side, I thought Nick Bolton was put in a lot of conflict again in this game. And that was not his best game that they had.
I will say across the board, though, the run defense, like they made Derrick Henry look very, very human in this game when just about everybody else couldn't, right? 13 carries, 46 yards for Derrick Henry in this one. And like the Chiefs did a really good job of slowing him down and not letting the game be dictated by the terms of the Baltimore Ravens in that regard. I mean, he only had 13 carries too, because like game script dictated that a little bit. And yeah, that was really refreshing to see as well. I did have this question I wanted to ask you before we move on. Who do you think is a tougher matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills?
Like going forward, obviously, so like with the changes they've made right now. Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess the Buffalo Bills, because this version of the Buffalo Bills has beaten the Chiefs. The Ravens have not.
Fair. Yeah.
We're splitting hairs here. Here's the tricky part with the Ravens is any game, Lamar Jackson can go crazy and put up a ton of points, especially if it's against a lesser defense. The Ravens are going to put up a ton of points. The Chiefs seem to show up for these games and make it difficult. And so you get a lot of ups and downs in Lamar Jackson's game. Like there is a lot more ebb and flow to his game versus the Chiefs than there is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, especially now, like after it's been 6 years of this, he's pretty steadily good. Maybe not great, maybe not elite, but he's steadily good against the Chiefs. He has a lot of the answers to what Spags does, as we talked about last week. He seems to understand how to attack some of the blitzes. I don't think Lamar's on that level specifically against the Chiefs yet. It's just a lot more super high, super low, super high, super low. So I just think the consistency, I'll give the edge to the Bills because they seem a little bit more familiar with how to attack the Chiefs.
I think I'm with you. I just, it was just such an interesting question to me because both these teams are right there. They're continuously right there. They're both just like they're the two true contenders to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. I think the answer is the Bills are a bigger challenge because of some of the stuff you just listed there. Like Spags is against the Ravens a little bit, right? Like if the Chiefs want to stop the run, they know how to stop the run. And they do it. I mean, they did it to Saquon even in I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl, and but they were doing it to Saquon too. Is all I was going to say there. But I think that is the answer. Before we move on, let's go to the wheel of games here and figure out what we are going to be watching with Craig Stout on Wednesday. What will Craig Stout have to watch in preparation for Wednesday's show? I do hope it's week 18.
There's some good ones still on here, fellas. There's still some good games. It's contrary to popular belief. There are some good games still on here. Go ahead and give it a good little spin here.
Well, that Browns game is going to hit so hard.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, this is one where Matt Lane was in person week 12 at the Carolina Panthers. What a banger. What a banger.
I can't wait to watch this one back. This is listen, I don't know about good game, but this is a game.
It's a game. There's man. Every time we get on with these, I just want to start firing off takes. But I got to save them for Wednesday.
No, no. This is good. What's your teaser take?
It's the Panthers, man. Yeah, I mean, like one of the worst defensive performances of the season, if I'm remembering correctly. You had to slog it out to try to stick around and hang around and beat the Panthers, which really wound up not being that impressive, even though they got better as the season went on. I can't tease it.
Bryce Young's coming out game 2, by the way. People forget.
Yeah, as I say, I think it was a 5D chess move. This was Steve Spagnuolo letting his foot off the gas and letting old Bryce Young get his confidence back so that he can stay in Carolina because that helps the Chiefs.
Why would he want to? I don't know.
I don't know. Why else would Bryce Young all of a sudden be good at football?
Yeah, and I'm going back and looking too. Like, it was his coming out game, but they also really weren't. He wasn't like a world beater the rest of the season. Hey, let's take a break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, it's playoff time, and if you're still just watching the games, then you're missing out. With Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Just make your picks, track your score, and if you hit all 6, you're looking at bigger payouts than Prize Picks flex plays. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at a 500 times bag in your pocket. And right now, new customers can get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. Here's what you got to do. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdictions. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us on a Monday night, especially as the OKC Thunder are giving the Pacers the business as we speak right now.
What's the unethical free throw count? I'm assuming like 7.
Probably not, because that's
probably 9. I think it was probably 9. You're right.
Which there are many.
I think
so. I
think 9 makes sense.
We all cope in our own ways.
I think mine makes sense. Oh, sorry, you just fouled me. Oh, sorry again.
That's a pretty good bit, Maddie. It played well because of the split screen. I'm sorry. We are doing our positional breakdowns, and we are lucky and blessed to be doing the quarterback position today. As we are looking through this thing, we will go ahead and run down that quarterback room for you really quick before we move on. Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Gardner Minshew. Bailey Zappi. Chris Oladokun. Big Royals fan, Chris Oladokun. Just going out there with Mahomes and hanging out in the bat suites every night. It's pretty sick. I was at the K on Friday. Mahomes was there. And my buddy had these really nice seats. We could see the Mahomeses hanging out and all that stuff. We were on the third base side, and we could see them having a good time. They were having a good time for sure. Anyways, Maddie Lane, where does why don't you explain to everyone what the gas station scale is, and please, just let everybody know if they don't know by now, what we're doing here with these positions.
Yeah, so here at KCSN, we have the KCSN official gas station tier scale, in which we at KCSN stand by, plant our feet down, and as a company rank all of the Chiefs positions on our gas station scale, where on the ticker, you can see if you were watching, tier 1 is quick trip. That is the best you can be. Tier 2 is flying J. That is very good, but there's room for improvement. Tier 3 is 7-Eleven. That can be like, okay, we can get by with this, but who are we kidding? Like this isn't good. And then finally, tier 4, bottom of the barrel, you got Shell gas stations, in which nobody goes to. And so that's bad. Spoiler, Chiefs quarterbacks, they're going to go ahead and be a quick trip. Oh, cool. You want to fight on that, or are you good with that?
No, I'm totally good with that. I'll ask you this question. Do you think that they have the best quarterback room in the National Football League?
Yeah, I think probably. I mean, I'd have to sit and look at every single depth chart, but we've seen Gardner Minshew, and it's more been in spurts, right? Like he's not good enough to be a full-on starter, like building a team around, but we've seen Gardner Minshew play for long stretches of different teams with different systems in the NFL, and it's been by and large fine. He's taken teams like won games, won hard games. Like he's a very, very, very good backup. He's one of the better backups in the league if we're just talking about having to play for a long stretch. And then I think even if you go to Bailey Zappi, who I don't know, I think New England did some weird stuff where they were trying to get him reps when he probably didn't need them, but teams could do a lot worse than him as their third or fourth string quarterback, because we can't forget that Oladukin's been hanging out on this team for a while. These flashed some traits in the preseason. So like in terms of a bottom of the roster guy, just showing enough to matter in this discussion. Yeah, they might have the best quarterback room.
Allen, Trubisky, Mike White. Josh Allen, Mitch Trubisky, Mike White. How's that?
No, because Trubisky stinks.
Yeah, see, and I think you've got to start with the tippy top, and at that point, there's really only a few that matter, right? Like Justin Herbert, not enough to clear Mahomes, even with the backup. Because Taylor Heineke, I like Taylor Heineke a little bit. Trey Lance.
But is he even better than Minshew?
DJ Uiagalelei.
Yeah, okay, that's a no.
Okay. Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, Josh Johnson.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
tough.
That's good. That's good. But again, if I have to start, Minshew for half a season, I feel just fine. I feel just as good about having to start him or Mariota. I mean, Mariota's not good. Again, fine backup, but he's not good. You got to find me who's the backup around the league right now that should start.
I've got it. It's this one. It's
not.
Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, Tommy DeVito.
I mean,
that's the one. I mean, Tommy Cutlets, Jameis. Come on, man. Clearly, that is the best.
I don't think your best bet might be the fraud goals, right?
I was looking at them too, and you're talking Burrow, Logan Woodside, Peyton Thorne, and Jake Browning.
But that's what I was leaning towards. Jake Browning, right? We saw him play, and he was not great, but we saw him play, and it wasn't a complete disaster, right? It wasn't a complete disaster. Burrow gets you at least in vicinity to maybe lob a softball up and hit Patrick Mahomes. I don't think the Ravens have a worthwhile backup right now. I just
Jackson Cooper Rush.
Yeah, that's insane.
Stafford, Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett.
Okay, 3 years ago, maybe.
Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, duh. No, I Malik Willis with that Jordan Love, right? I don't know, man.
That wasn't bad. That one wasn't bad. But the problem is, I think there's too big of a gap from Love to Mahomes for any backup quarterback gap for Minshew to break it, if that makes sense, right? You're not going to find a backup quarterback that is closer to, or that is so far ahead of Patrick Mahomes than Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love, I guess.
We'll move on to best player at the position. I think it's inarguable, and I'll just ask it a little bit differently because the conversation has come up a lot here in the last week or so. People are starting to rank quarterbacks for the 2025 season, and Patrick Mahomes is not listed as consistently as he has been as the number one quarterback. I'll ask you, what do you think? Do you think he is? What do we think here? What do we think here, Maddie? Because we're hearing a lot of. Is he still the best?
Ooh, loaded question here.
Ooh, really?
Yes. Because what do you is best as who do I want to lead my team for this upcoming year? Yes, I'm still taking Patrick Mahomes over everybody else. Who's played the quarterback position the best the last year or 2 years? I feel like there's a pretty good argument to make that other quarterbacks have played better the last 2 seasons than Patrick Mahomes has, even if you take into account the situations and everything. So, I guess it depends on how you're going about trying to delegate how you want to answer this question, right? And so if I were to make rankings right now, which I'm not going to, but if I were to make one, Patrick Mahomes would still be my number one, but I don't know if I have him in a tier by himself right now, whereas I would have entering last season, if that makes sense. I do think that Josh Allen, and as much as I don't trust Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, until the playoffs, he belongs in that tier. As soon as it turns to playoff football, then okay, maybe he drops down. But I don't know. I think you can make a case that top tier is a lot more crowded now than it was even last offseason.
I still put him in a tier of his own, and I put him in a tier of his own because rings. And I think, what he does at the end of the season every single year, and what he does, what he does when it matters the most, and whose soul he takes every single year when it matters the most. We just got done talking. The last 2 teams in the AFC Championship, Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, have been denied an opportunity to play in a Super Bowl, let alone win one, because of Patrick Mahomes playing his best football at the right time and denying them an opportunity. So I do think that there is a certain slog that this team has gone through offensively over the last couple seasons, and it's required a lot of Patrick Mahomes, especially the year that they won the Super Bowl, to try and figure some things out. But he peaks at the right time. He plays his best football at the right time, and that should matter for something. And that's why I put him in a clear-cut tier above his own. Now, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have had statistically tremendous seasons the last couple of years, and I think there's an argument to be made about the regular season performances for sure. But it's still, for me, it's the body of work, and it's the success when it matters the most, and how much better of a quarterback he's been than both of those guys in the big moments, and being in that opportunity time and time again. Easy way with the bye, hard way going, to Baltimore, to Buffalo to take care of business. The trump card still exists for me, even though I think from a consistency perspective, there's been more statistical performances, really good statistical performances from the other 2.
So, okay, and we're just going to sidebar this entire thing because, we're talking quarterback position right now, and it's kind of like a known commodity, right? So we're just going to talk, Mahomes here for a minute and the grand scheme. What has to happen for you then to ever change that? Let's say Jalen Hurts goes and wins the Super Bowl, or let's say the Rams go. Let's say it's not Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. If they don't get their Super Bowl, whether it's Mahomes knocking them out or not, right? How does anybody ever have a chance to catch Mahomes in? Because right now, over the past 2 years, he's barely 2-to-1 touchdowns to interceptions. He's, averaging by far less yards per completion or attempt than those other guys, right? He's not the same threat with his legs. He's a good runner, but he's not the same threat on the ground as a runner as either one of those guys. His pressure to sack rate is higher, way higher than both of those guys over the last year. So statistically speaking, this is mostly regular season, because I do agree that the playoffs separate. What would have to happen for you to consider putting them in the same tier, or even flip-flopping them based on Mahomes or their performance?
Make a Super Bowl?
They have to make the Super Bowl. No, that's
someone.
fine.
I just mean even get there, man. You can't even. You can't. He knocks you down every single time, and I don't know. I dunk on Tom Brady sometimes and all that stuff, but there's also I know he wasn't the greatest statistical performer every Super Bowl he won either, right? Like that, he was not the
Yeah.
best statistical quarterback over the course of, every single year that he won the thing, and especially late, right? Like he was, he made winning plays. He made plays when they mattered the most, and he took care of business and, protected the football at the right time and took risks at the right time. Like he made good winning plays and he made them consistently. And I think Mahomes has always been that, even in some of these rougher statistical performances where they've worked through some things, and it has not been a smooth sailing for this team.
So do you have Burrow higher than Allen and Lamar because he made it to the Super Bowl?
No.
But they have to make it to the Super Bowl to get to Mahomes level, correct? I'm just making sure that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was saying, like, even getting there, but like I think one of them's got to win one. I think one of them's really got to win one. I think maybe if you say, yeah, you beat Mahomes, that's fine. I'll give it to you. I'm also just a giant Joe Burrow hater.
That's fair. So there's again, I'm prying here because I'm trying to play devil's advocate, because I think you're a little bit stronger in your stance that Mahomes is still clearly well ahead of these guys and not just ahead. I want to be clear. I think he's better than them. It's just I have it a little bit closer. I don't know if I can see another 25 touchdown, 12 interception year while they're putting up 40 touchdowns and be like, hey, he's definitely still way better than you. Like, at some point, that stuff does start to catch up to me a little bit. And like, then come playoff time, hey, maybe it doesn't matter, right? Come playoff time, maybe he goes down and gets that field goal drive at the end of the game, despite, everything else being relatively similar in their performances. Maybe he gets the last drive correct and they don't. And like, I am fine with saying that is your tiebreaker, but how many more vastly inferior regular season performances do we go through before we can have that conversation?
It's tough, and I think it's just like fresh off the heels of finally losing a Super Bowl and not being able to close the deal right. You chalk a little bit of this up as like, the entire regular season is like, hey, this is us kind of trying to peak at the right time, to play our best basketball at the right time, to work through things, work through our options, understand what we need to do, and using the regular season because, and it sounds disrespectful to the league, but I think it's been true to a degree, is just like finding what works and finding a way to, to peak at the right time, because that's kind of what this team did the last few years is, like, we're going to work through some things. We're going to try Kingsley Suamataia at left tackle. We're going to try to figure out the left tackle position on the fly as we go. We're going to have to figure out how to generate offense or find a version of this offense that will work. And, oh, by the way, the version of offense that worked in 2025 was just simply not turning the ball over because they went on a remarkable stretch where they were just protecting the football at an incredible rate. It's tough to chalk regular season up and talk about the regular season really in general when you're looking at the legacy of Patrick Mahomes, especially as he's just burned through all that, figured it out at the right time, and then played outstanding basketball to close out his season, right? So, and that version of him beat both of those guys in the last two seasons. So, like, I don't know, man. It's just really hard for me to not say that he's in his own tier, because those two have not been able to break through that wall, right? They have not been able to break through that wall. And I mean, I know Burrow did technically, but it wasn't like he was some world beater in that game either, right? I think the Chiefs just made too many crucial mistakes in that game. So I don't know. It is an interesting question.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's an interesting question.
Yeah. And like I said, I want to be clear. I still would put Mahomes at number one. And I think for me, what it ultimately comes down to is in these playoff games when everything does matter, not only is he winning, but I mean, like, by and large, and it's not a significant amount, but I think he is outplaying Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in those games, right? Like, and if you go back and watch those Bills games in the playoffs or the Ravens game, it's close. And like for a stretch of the game, the other quarterback, I think you could make an argument played better. But like when you look at it from start to finish, I do think in these playoff wins that he has against Lamar and Josh Allen, he has outplayed them. And so the fact that he's not only beating them, but he is, and it's just a small amount, but he is being a little bit better than them in those games. We've seen him do it with different iterations of this Chiefs team right now. So like, I still would fall back on that ultimately, but for me, it's definitely closer to a tiebreaker, not a tiebreaker, but definitely more of like okay, this is what is the separation rather than just like part of keeping them at different tiers, because and maybe this is me just being a fan, but watching Mahomes play a quarterback for 18 weeks in a row or 17 out of 18 weeks in the regular season, and then watching those two quarterbacks play, like it's no doubt in my mind for those 18 weeks who's playing quarterback better. And it's not Patrick Mahomes. It's just he does turn it on and has a knack to turn it on when he needs to, and they haven't quite figured out how to turn it up to his level in those moments. So I get both sides of it.
And I think a lot of times those two teams are chasing advantage in the playoffs a lot more, right? They're chasing the one seed. They are, and they're trying to get to the mountaintop, and they haven't been able to do it. And they've ran out of fumes in the home stretch to be able to do it. And maybe it's because they've had more successful regular seasons. They've put more on tape, that they've been able to, they didn't hold as much back. And I'm not saying the Chiefs are just sandbagging until the regular season, but I do think it's more of a process, especially when you have the luxury of winning back-to-back Super Bowls and back-to-back AFC championships and having 3 rings on the ledger and basically being the team to beat for 8 years in the AFC. Like at some point, like how the mentality changes, the mentality shifts, and what you're doing shifts, and what you're trying to accomplish and what you're using the regular season to accomplish does shift. I do buy that. And so like, how much is that playing into, the success, the individual accolades, does, like how much does that really bake into that a little bit? Because it seems like this team peaks at the right time with not just Mahomes, but just their team in general, right? Like, you saw during 2024, 2023, Chris Jones played his best football in the home stretch too, right? And he didn't, it's not like he's having these, he's not always having overwhelming statistical performances. He's just playing his best football. And, I think this team has found a way to use the regular season for what they need it to, while winning a ton of football games and going 15-1 against the rest of the league. I don't know. I think it's a scale. I think it's tough to judge both of these because one's accomplished something and the other really hasn't.
Should accomplishments of 5 years ago play an impact on who's playing quarterback better right now?
No, but I think what your team is trying to do and how your team tries to do it matters in 2020 and year to year. Like, so like, I do think there is a little bit of that playing a factor, right?
Sure.
They know what they're trying to do. They're all just hankering to get into the postseason and get to the postseason. And they were so good that they could go 15-1 while tinkering and working through issues and trying to get better.
Yeah. Final Mahomes thing. I obviously, concern's not the right word, but I obviously think that there's room to play way better in the regular season and probably a need to. I don't think you need to try to win 10 one-score games because you're trying to figure stuff out and see what you can get away with. Maybe we find what we're good at and do those things earlier so you can put up not only better stats, but win games by more than 1 score. And so for that reason, looking at this Chiefs team heading into this year, I want to see improvement from Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. Because like there are games that he did not play well last year. There are throws that he did not make well at all last year. He did not play his best regular season football. That was not his best year last year at all. Even the playoffs wasn't his best, but he clearly elevated his game a little bit come playoff time. But the regular season stuff, it's got to be better this year. I want to see better. I think we need to see better, and hopefully coming off of a loss and not chasing a three-peat. And then what really gets to me is I'm looking around this team. The offensive line should be improved. We'll see what happens with Josh Simmons' health. But if not, you got Jalen Moore at left tackle. You have to hope that you can make left guard work. And if there's a position that you need to make work, making it be guard is the right way to go. As of now, your wide receiver room is as healthy and as good as it's ever been since you lost Tyreek Hill. You could maybe make the, argument that the wide receivers by themselves are a little bit deeper now than they ever were, besides like the few games that Sammy Watkins was healthy and with Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce's obviously declining, but you have enough. There's now enough receiving weapons with Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and whatever's left of the rest of this roster, plus what Travis Kelce gives you and Noah Gray, plus an improved offensive line. There's no more excuses, I think, is kind of what I'm saying. I think we're running real thin on excuses for why having one of the lowest, at air yards per attempt, one of the lowest yards per attempted pass in general, having a pretty mediocre pressure set. Like, we're out of excuses for why those things are okay this year. Let's start turning that ship back around. And I think it's a big year for that.
I do think, just real quick, one other thing is like this whole protect the football, trust the defense thing just simply never came back to bite them almost the entirety of the season. They won 15 games playing that style of football. They won a Super Bowl playing that style of football. And I do think this isn't me excusing anything away. This is me saying I'm with you. I want to see a little bit more. I do want to see a little bit more this season. I want to see more, I want to see more efficiency. I want to see the ball down the field a little bit more. I don't want it to be as tight all the time. I really do want to see, I do want to see more out of this offense for sure. No arguments here. I just wonder if it was just like, you know what, we're good. We keep doing this. We keep protecting the football. Good things happen and we win 15 games and this is just how we're going to do it. And then whenever we need to pull that lever, we finally will. And they just doesn't feel like they ever had to quite as much as they needed to. So, I do think that there are steps that this team will take, and I do think this version of this 2025 team will take a step. And the question is, who takes a step? Do we think Mahomes has a better statistical performance in 2025 than 2024?
I mean, yeah, I think he does, but this is part of me still saying that I think that I can make an argument for him to be the best quarterback in the NFL, right? If I'm going to make that argument, he has to have a better statistical year, I think, through the regular season. I don't think he can play like he did. Not even statistical, just like the performance on the field. And 2 years ago, with looking at what that offensive or that wide receiver room was doing, plus the offensive line, it made sense. And I understand last year had its ups and downs with the offensive line and the wide receiver room's inconsistencies, but it wasn't so incredibly bad as it was the year before. It wasn't miscommunication after stupid, mistake by wide receiver. 2 years ago, I bought the excuses and I was fine with it. Last year, I don't think the excuses added up the same. Mahomes just didn't play his best football. So yeah, I do think he needs to take a step forward. He needs to be more consistent. He needs to not miss as many throws as he did. He needs to just simply be better. And you're right, it didn't backfire on them last year. So if he just decides to continue to play a lot more conservatively and a lot more safe, that's fine. You just got to bring back a little bit more efficiency. And at least we can go, hey, it was really boring, but at least there was no bad in there. And I think last year there was a little too much bad for as conservative as they were playing.
Again, I'm sitting here caping for Mahomes the whole time. I don't even think that's unfair to say either. Right? I think there's legitimacy to that as well. It's, it's not that he wasn't he made some crucial errors during the season. He made some crucial mistakes throughout games, and that there were some of those sprinkled in there. Not to say none of the other quarterbacks didn't have those as well, and they lost some games for their teams as well. And maybe that's, I think if we really looked at it like that, I think you could make some arguments against the Josh Allens and the Lamar Jacksons of the world, because they cost their team some games with some of their performances during the season as well. Sleeper UDFA to watch. There's really obviously not a ton, but do you think Bailey Zappi could push to make this roster at all? Do you think Bailey Zappi has a chance to make this roster at all? Do you think Bailey Zappi has a chance to be on the practice squad in 2025?
Do they keep one or two quarterbacks on the practice squad?
They normally keep one. That's why I'm asking.
Then no.
I think Chris Oladokin's just a lock to be. So is this just go get your work, Bailey, show off for a bunch of other teams, get the experience here in this quarterback room, and then move on?
Bailey Zappi does nothing for this quarterback room. I don't think he's adding to the meeting room any more than Mahomes or a Minshew would, or even at this point Oladokin. And I don't think there's any reason to cut bait on a backup quarterback that you have had in the system for years now that you're trying to define, to grow and develop his traits. I don't see a great fit for Zappi on this team. I also don't think it's already going to be difficult enough to go from what Patrick Mahomes likes to do if Minshew has to step in to what Gardner Minshew likes to do. But at least there's some things that overlap in terms of being able to run a little bit of the playground stuff, to probably be able to do a little bit of the RPO stuff and things there's a little bit of crossover in the short game that you can rely on. I don't think Bailey Zappi's short game even looks like those two guys. So it's just an entirely different offense if he has to step in and do anything. I don't know if I see it.
Any players to add?
No.
Why would you add to the best quarterback room in the National Football League? That's what I'd like to know.
That's a great question.
The rich don't need to get richer. You're in a great spot here at the quarterback spot. That is going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory.
Tell that to rich people.
Wednesday is an OG Lab Day with Craig Stout. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
I think all rich people want to do is get richer.